This is an electronics retailer in Tokyo. The latest home blood pressure monitors can be found in the healthcare section here. This model measures blood pressure from the wrist. All the monitors have something in common. They are easy to use with one-touch operation. Blood pressure monitors designed in Japan have been helping people all over the world to maintain their health. Our story begins in 1978. Japan's economy was rapidly growing. The standard of living had improved, and people were also becoming more health conscious. It was during this time that a Kyoto-based medical equipment manufacturer announced a new product: a home blood pressure monitor. The selling point was that users could pump air into the cuff themselves and read off the measurement from the digital display. Despite the innovation, the product wasn't selling well. Nishioka Takanori is involved with the development of blood pressure monitors. This is what he heard about those early days.
Back then, blood pressure was something that was measured at the hospital or clinic. There was such a strong association with measuring blood pressure at a medical facility and not at home. People weren't ready to accept blood pressure monitors into their houses.
But then, in 1986, an unexpected opportunity presented itself to the company: an offer to collaborate on research with a university hospital. Many residents of a town in the Tohoku region had high blood pressure. The company would distribute monitors to all the residents so that they could measure their blood pressure daily. This data would be used to study the link between high blood pressure and various illnesses.
In this town, there were many people with high blood pressure, and among them, there was a high rate of cerebrovascular disease or strokes. A doctor from a university hospital in Tohoku wanted to do something about this situation and asked our company for assistance.
The study produced the finding: it was better to measure blood pressure at home, not at the hospital. The reason was that the measurements turn out significantly different. At home, you can measure your blood pressure in a relaxed state. But at the hospital, the presence of doctors or nurses makes people nervous, and the readings tend to be higher.
The company believed that blood pressure fluctuated considerably. It wasn't accurate to just measure it at a hospital on occasion. The company wanted to start a culture of measuring blood pressure at home and collaborated with the university hospital.
The company thought the outcome of the study might also increase demand for home blood pressure monitors. They decided to develop a new product that more people would want to use. What should the new monitor be like? First, the developers looked at what areas could be improved from the previous models. In order to investigate this, the company collected user feedback and conducted in-store surveys. What they heard most frequently was that it was difficult to control the cuff pressure. After pressing the button, the built-in pump would send air to the cuff. In order to obtain a measurement, just slightly more pressure than the user's actual blood pressure needed to be applied to momentarily stop the flow of blood. The available model required the user to choose from one of 4 pressures between 140 and 240. If the wrong setting was picked, the pressure might be too strong, causing pain or discomfort. If the pressure was too weak, it wouldn't measure correctly.
Customers that were purchasing a blood pressure monitor for the first time didn't know what setting to pick to match their blood pressure. They weren't certain of their blood pressure in the first place. It would hurt if the cuff squeezed too hard, and if it was too weak, they'd get an error saying to do it again. That was the biggest source of frustration.
Another issue. This was the noise the product made during measurement. It was loud, and customers said they couldn't measure in the morning or at night when other family members might still be sleeping. That led the team to come up with the concept for their new product. It would be quiet and gentle and work with the press of a single button. First, the design of the air pump was changed to make it operate more silently. When they tried out their prototype, they found that they were able to lower the noise by over 10 decibels. But the team soon ran into a big problem. And that was the one-touch operation. Just how would that work? People all have slightly different arm thicknesses. Thicker arms require more air to be pumped into the cuff, while thinner ones need less. The wrong pressure would result in an inaccurate measurement. Even how tight the cuff was wrapped would affect the amount of air that needed to be pumped in. Was their one-touch concept even possible? The developers had run into a wall. One day, the developers were contacted by a certain team from the company's research facility, the Fuzzy Logic Promotion Center. They claimed that their research might be of some assistance. A meeting was quickly arranged, but just what exactly was fuzzy logic? A member of the fuzzy logic team explained that it was something an American scholar proposed in the 60s. By using fuzzy logic, a machine could act somewhat like a human does. The developers listened with great interest.
To put it simply, if you control something using fuzzy logic, you can reproduce in a machine something akin to what a human would do based on experience or their senses. It looked like a good fit for controlling the pressure of the cuff.
The team quickly moved to implement fuzzy logic into the control program for the pump. Almost immediately, however, the big question became apparent. How exactly does one set up the special rules that will define the fuzzy logic control? Take, for example, if someone has thin arms, the air pressure should increase gently. But if someone has thick arms, the air pressure would need to increase more strongly. A machine typically operates in a binary on or off manner, zeros and ones. But by accounting for all these situations with rules, a range of operation in between can be produced. To come up with the rules, the team members thought of all the things that would affect the cuff pressure. They decided on these factors: whether the arm was thin or thick, whether the arm was muscular or soft, and whether the cuff was tight or loose. They also had to set rules to govern how the pump would operate and account for the remaining charge in the battery. The team wrote rules to cover as many situations as they could and entered them into the program.
Let's say someone has thick arms. The air pump would need to operate at a faster rate. We were trying to make it so that the device would be able to automatically control the pressure for every person and parameter.
The team worked diligently towards creating the system. After about a year into development, the final prototype was completed. Could the device actually apply the right pressure with the press of a single button? The team was ready for the final test of the prototype. They first looked to try the device on the team members. But there was a problem. The team members all had similar builds. The developers would have to seek help from outside the company. They phoned a client at the hospital to explain their situation and how they were in need of help. Later, the call was answered. Seniors with elevated blood pressure and went to regular checkups at the hospital arrived for the test. They had different body types, thicker arms and thinner arms. Would the device be able to work on them? The developers asked the seniors to put on the cuffs. The test began. As the pumps whirred to life, the cuffs inflated with air. If the pressure was too strong or too weak, it would mean failure. The team held their breath as they fixed their gaze on the machines. And then, correctly measured blood pressures displayed on both screens. The team would go on to repeat this test around 1,000 times with other subjects over 4 months. No matter what shape of arm, with just one touch, the machine would measure the right blood pressure.
Many users of blood pressure monitors are older, so the testing was focused on an even number of male and female seniors with different arm sizes. The developers knew what they were doing was going to help people stay healthy, and that pushed them to keep going forward. I'm sure they were really glad the project could be realized.
And so, in 1991, the world's first home blood pressure monitor using fuzzy logic control was announced. The popularity of these monitors with simple one-touch operation steadily grew within Japan.